My name is Timur Zolotoev. I'm a curator based in Berlin, and I'm happy to present to you this exhibition, Tacit Tongues. This show looks at language as an active site of memory, struggle, and repair. It brings together works by Mongolian artist Nomin Zezegmaa, Buryat artist Natalia Papaeva and Mila Balzhieva, and the Berlin-based collective Slavs and Tatars. Language has always served both as a tool of control and silencing and as a vehicle for emancipation and empowerment. This exhibition draws on a legacy of adaptation and erasure experienced by cultures and languages throughout the 20th century. The way Nomin, Natalia, and Mila work with language, letters, and how they address legacy of historical traumas, to me really resonated with the practice of Slavs and Tatars, who use research, humor, and critical inquiry to address this political and cultural complexities of the Eurasian region as they define it to the east of the former Berlin Wall and to the west of the Great Wall of China. In their practice, Slavs and Tatars engage popular culture, spiritual and esoteric traditions, oral histories, modern myths, and academic scholarship to open up new paths for contemporary discourse. The works of Slavs and Tatars selected for this exhibition are emblematic of the collective's approach to language. Love Letters is a series that explores language as a source of political, metaphysical, and even sexual emancipation. Echoing the style of Vladimir Mayakovsky's illustrations, this series of carpets addresses the wrenching experience of having a foreign alphabet imposed on a native tongue that happened to different cultures across the 20th century. Through caricatures, it looks at different linguistic acrobatics required to navigate such a shift. It also explores the casualties of these linguistic takeovers, lost letters and mistranslations, looking at them as markers of trauma of modernity. A sculpture of tongue stretched in the splits called 𝗏𝗏𝗏 captures the contradictions of language, how it can both connect and confuse, reveal and distort all at once. In Kitab Kebab, a traditional kebab skewer pierces a stack of a collective selection of books. This playful installation reflects on our relationship with reading, intellectual and emotional alike, suggesting that knowledge is not merely absorbed by digested.
Hi everyone, my name is Nomin. I'm very honored to be speaking again from the NIKA project space. We have this time more paintings, and we also have two works which the main material is stones. And for my painterly approach, I'm mainly interested in a sort of like alchemical transmutation. I'm really fascinated with this sort of like balance of water and stones, in this way that the canvas is a sort of membrane. And in these paintings, and specifically the one behind me, my writing without writing calligraphy practice is also included. The writing without writing calligraphy practice grew from my inability of writing and also reading in 𝗦𝗔𝗩𝗘, the traditional vertical script of Mongolia, which has not been used for a very long time and has been replaced by the Cyrillic alphabet. I was fascinated and interested to investigate in a very physical way how it would feel like to write in Mongolian script, but without trying to mimic it. And over time I realized that something completely of its own had been born. The writing without writing to me is a sort of like language of its own, dancing between drawing but also writing. And though it's not an alphabet per se, it's not letters, it's maybe more so even symbolic, they kind of represent the phenomenon of writing itself. Another work that I'm very happy to be able to show again is the piece 𝗦𝗔𝗧𝗘, Body, Soul, Mind. And this work was actually inspired by a sort of shamanic podcast lecture. This piece has basically 3 layers. In Mongolian we believe that we have to know up to 9 or 13 generations on each side, so your maternal and your paternal side. And then in the center, there's sort of like this vessel in between. And that's, for me, kind of like where these generational ancestral sides come together and create the vessel, which is your body. And then the second layer to it is a sort of like a symbol inspired by my writing without writing practice to represent the soul as a sort of like eternal fire, as a sort of eternal catalyst for the vehicle that the body, the soul, and the thought come together. And the final layer is a mountainscape. It can be really serene and like calming, but it can be also really challenging because it's like this metaphor of like climbing a mountain, this obstacle, but the feeling when you actually manage to overcome that obstacle.
Hello, my name is Mila Balzhieva. Here I'm presenting my textile works. These works are about extinct plants, reinterpreted as symbols of the past and the lost language of the land. The two works represent extinct plant 𝗗𝗧𝗘. Here is my reinterpretation of the fossilized images of the plants. So I made some sort of chimeras that would represent and mimic a script. The other work is latex, and this is my reinterpretation of material latex and how soft it is and how it can adjust to any form, and also how this soft form could be a symbol of the land. With this project, I also reflect on my Buryat heritage and the lost language, and how there is this sadness and desire to save it and speak it. The degree in art and science helped me to approach these topics through different perspectives, as scientific and artistic. So I like to do research-based projects and work with natural materials. I am also collaborating with Natural History Museum of Vienna, and that inspired me to go further down to learn more about the fossils and how geologists read the symbols and how they address this reinterpretation to the climate change and other natural disasters. So I guess, yeah, it just comes naturally to continue working in one path with exploring this connection, human to non-human and more than human.
My name is Natalia Papaeva, and I'm an artist. As an artist, I work with the text. I love reading, I love writing texts, and often my works comes from the struggles with the languages. Why is it that some languages disappear? Why some people think it's okay? Why I cannot use my language outside domestic settings? Why is my language is not taught at school, and it doesn't have anything to do with evolution or that something dies out and disappears? No, that if your language is suffering, it is mostly political situation. And of course, for me, for my practice, my Buryat language is a metaphor. So I have developed several methods of working with the language. Like, for example, writing is a performance for me without the audience being present. And then I wrote the poem about mountain with the name of Lenin. We have this mountain in my village where I was born. And then the text you see on that fabric is the poem I wrote in Russian, and then I translated it into Mongolian. And I'm always trying to learn and relearn the script because it's important for me. It was in my family. We also have books in Mongolian letters, but because in 1930s it was cancelled, the Buryat language was transferred into Cyrillic, and I was always curious about Mongolian alphabet, and I always wanted to read the books we have at home from my great-grandfather. So in order to remember Mongolian letters, I always use it in my artworks. I mostly work with the video and I film my performances, and I did develop these works during my Rijksacademy years. I was just playing with my textiles and everything in my studio, and then I made this fabric. I dyed the fabric and I cut the hole in it, and then that reminded me of the moon. I was also researching conceptual writing, and I found the poem of Nekrasov. In the poem I really liked, it was winter, winter, winter and spring. I translated that Russian poem into Buryat language, and in the work I am just humming. I made this melody and I'm humming a word winter in Buryat. And of course, the moon is connected to Lunar New Year for me. I don't celebrate it with my family that much because I don't go to Buryatia that often anymore, so I am mostly alone celebrating. So, see, all the personal things comes into my work, but I always try to connect it to universal themes.